Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be working on this vintage Lionel Great Northern FA-1 locomotive. This was sent in a couple months ago by a viewer, although I'm not really sure who because they didn't include a name or anything. But in any case, this locomotive doesn't run for obvious reasons. The rear truck is completely gone and it's really destroyed. They did include the parts, but they're in horrible condition. I'll get to that later. But I believe when we tested this thing, the motor did work, so there is some hope for it. So anyway, I'll take it over to the track. I'll show you all kind of what it's doing right now, and then we'll go from there and see if we can get this really kind of cool looking locomotive riding the rails once again. So as I said, I'm pretty sure the motor does work. This is only a rear wheel drive locomotive, so even though one truck's intact, it won't go anywhere. But working headlight, running motor, so it's far from hopeless. The question is if we can get the whole truck rigged up again. So as mentioned, the person who sent this in did include the original parts, but they're in really poor condition. This is fine, but when I first took this out of the bag, I just thought that this was cracked, which would be an easy fix. You know, you just put some CA on here and it would probably run again. But the problem is far worse, because if you look very carefully, you can see lots of cracking, and what has actually happened here is this part has developed zinc rot or zinc pest. And this is any model railroaders or, vintage toy collectors' worst nightmare, because basically what happens is from what I understand, the castings are kind of impure, and the metal just starts to disintegrate, and it will actually inflate and become warped. A lot of weird stuff can happen, and it's basically irreversible. So not only is this cracked, but you can see like the metal is completely warped as well. And this will just continue until the whole thing comes apart. So that's no good. This is basically garbage at this point. However, the same person who sent this locomotive in sent in another Lionel locomotive, which I already have. So I think we're going to use the truck off of that in this engine so we can try to get it up and running again. And I'll see what I can do. I might try to glue this back together and put this in that locomotive and just turn it into a dummy engine, because just having some wheels rotating in here should be fine for a while. It's not going to last forever, but hey, it's a free dummy locomotive and potentially a working engine here too. So let's begin. I think we'll just try to lift off the cover and see if we can actually get inside the drive. And everything looks okay. Got a little bit of insulation here just to cut down on the noise. It looks like that's coming apart, but everything looks pretty clean. You can see right here these locomotives were actually partially made in Canada, at least the molding part was. You can see they actually do include the location of where this engine was built, and it's a town in Michigan pretty close to Detroit, so that's pretty interesting. The company that made this, despite it being a Lionel engine, was apparently actually a division of General Mills, which makes like Cheerios cereal. So I never knew that a cereal manufacturer also made model trains. I just thought that that was kind of interesting. But in any case, we'll see if we can get this 1975 engine going once again with, pretty similar looking parts. Now, I think we'll open this part up. And that unfortunately just broke off. Just so we can check in on the lubricants and everything else. It overall looks very clean. I'm happy to see that. I think this engine's got a pretty good chance. Yeah, luckily, we do have some spares, so I guess. Okay, I kind of broke that too, but we'll just roll with it. Actually, it kind of looks like I'm not the first person to have broken this. So I think to start off, I'm just going to try to clean out some of the old grease off the worm gear and everything else. This gearbox overall is in really good shape. It's not too dirty. I don't really see any dust or hair. You could potentially take all this stuff out, but what I happen to notice is like this gear right here is stuck, and I can remove this middle one, which you think would, let this one go. But the metal is slightly warped on this, and I'm kind of concerned that if I tried to take it apart, the whole thing might just break. And this is the only one I have, so I have to be respectful with it, or else I don't think we'll be able to get this engine running again. But again, we're very lucky. If this was a dirty gearbox, it wouldn't really be a choice, not to open it up. But in this case, everything looks pretty good. I might be able to remove this worm gear actually, which is really my main concern. So we can get that out and just clean these parts off. You know, it's amazing even in a pretty clean gearbox there actually is just a little bit of dust and hair. This is not horrible, but still not really what you want in your gearbox. Well, I think at this point we can pretty much put the rest of the gearbox back together, but unfortunately I discovered that this part which I tried to take off the other gearbox is actually different from this one. So I'm assuming that the trucks on the other engine are backwards. Hopefully this will work okay with this engine, but there is a possibility there might be a bit of an issue with it. Yeah, this seems to be hanging on fine without that clip, so I think we'll just roll without it. You know, it's interesting, these engines are just a little bit different overall. So, I'm glad that the parts so far seem to be working together, but yeah, I don't know. They looked identical in the beginning. Alright, so here's another difference which I just discovered, which is apparently the drive rod is different between the two engines as well. That's interesting. Hopefully the original one is somewhere in this bag of spare parts. Well, unfortunately I could not find the original drive rod which will fit this piece. However, I remembered that the other Lionel engine, of course, has the matching parts, so we'll try to install this, although I think the dimensions on this engine might be different, so I don't know if it's actually all going to fit or not. These engines were definitely built at different times, I can tell you that. Anyway, let's get that off. Yeah, I don't know, folks. I don't think that that's going to work, because if there's too much force between these two parts, it's going to cause the truck to get stuck and then it will derail because it won't pivot right. It's too bad because it's so close, but it's just not enough. Well, I went digging through my spare parts to see if I could find something to replace this, but that has largely been unsuccessful. However, somebody did send in this random box of spare parts. They all pretty much look like Athearn ones, but I figure we'll just dig through here, and if we're lucky, maybe we'll find something that can replace it. I don't know. I didn't even know Athearn used one like this, but I guess we could try that. Yeah, it seems pretty loose, but the size might just be right. Let's have a look here. That does not seem very interested in coming off. I see what's going on here. Shoot. Oh no. Yeah, that's no good. Well, I guess I'll try to hook up some vice grips to this and we'll just try to pry that part off. I might have to just get a lighter and just burn the plastic right off of it. I don't know. This is all becoming a lot more of a challenge than I would have imagined. There we go. I'm really hoping I did not damage the gearbox doing that, but it's a possibility, that's for sure. Kind of tricky to see, but there actually is a wiper in there, so we know that the locomotive's isolated power comes from this side, and the grounded power comes from this side, because the engine did run without its rear wheels, which means that the way we're supposed to install these wheels is like this, I believe. Or no, sorry, it's this way. No, it's the other way. looks like that's completely split, and so is this. The plastic is being held together by the traction tire, so that's no good. See how easy that spins? So I guess we'll just try to remove these, clamp them down, and put some CA in there. Hopefully that will remedy that problem. Every step of the way there's some new problem. So I'll just try to get a little bit of crazy glue in between that gap there. And we'll just let that dry. Well, it's been about an hour, and it looks like these have set pretty well, so I guess we'll try to get them back on. Hopefully they won't split. Seems fine so far. Yeah, alright. Well, I guess we can reinstall these now. Alright, well, I guess we'll take this over to the track, just make sure it actually all works before we go about putting the shell back on. I think it all looks okay, but you never know. Yeah, look at that. Seems fine. Got reverse. Yes, we do. Let's get that shell back on now. Gotta say, I'm kind of impressed by that. I didn't think it was gonna start that easily. I thought there was either gonna be a problem or it was gonna hesitate, because who knows how long this locomotive's been sitting for. But yeah, she fired right up. Anyway, let's actually run it now with the shell. Well, folks, I think we have a runner. That is absolutely fantastic. It's running great. Absolutely mint. And I figure why not run this thing with a train? Pulls it no problems. Look at that. Well, I am absolutely just thrilled with this thing. I cannot believe it runs this well. Well, folks, I think that's going to be about it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I've got to say that I am just thrilled with how well this thing turned out, you know, especially considering it's not even all stock parts. We got that Athearn part in it, so I think considering that, it runs exceptionally well. If you're the person who sent this locomotive in, thank you so much. I wish I knew you by name so I could thank you for it, but whoever you are, thank you so much for sending in this engine. It was very generous. And I'm happy to see it can ride the rails once again for the first time in possibly many years. Who knows? Anyways, with that, I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you all so much for watching.